Halo semua, apa kabar semua? Ada baik ke semua? Salam, 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 salam semua. Apa kabar? Okay, let me just quickly post the link. Okay, so I think some context, guys. Tonight punya presentation ni is something that we have actually done before, right? Kita dah pernah buat Battle Royale, I think 2024 kita dah buat, and then kita dah buat also 2025, and now we're gonna do one for 2026, right? So logic is very simple. Johor property market, as per our prediction, has actually entered a property bull run. So when property bull run happens, I guess things move very quickly in the real estate market whenever you see a property bull run, right? So Johor, we said in 2022, 2023, we lead Malaysia towards the property bull run. And then, of course, kalau you tengok the latest punya NAPIC punya report, Johor is the only property market yang ada double-digit transaction growth and above 5% property price growth, right? So again, those are indicator that the bull run is basically happening lah. Long story short, Johor market is extremely hot, right? Now, the purpose of tonight is the most straightforward one. Normally when things are hot, people lose their mind. Okay? People become completely irrational, right? So we are hoping that the insights we're going to share tonight, right, will put some level of rationality back to the market. Kita pun, if you were to ask me, we don't have that much of a high hope because most people are lazy, right? They don't want to watch webinars like this, so they will continue to overpay. Okay, the reward for people who are watching this content is that you will never, hopefully you will never overpay. Right? At the same time, you're going to be able to go and see what is the best property deal today in Johor Bahru that you can look at relatively to what you are looking to buy. Does that make sense? So my job today is to give you perspective. Right? Our job today is to give you this particular perspective whereby, number one, guide in terms of what you want to do if you are looking to buy a country. Okay? What other people is doing, right? What is the best practices? So we're hoping that tonight we share. And on top of that, tonight we also have 5 hottest property review. Is my voice loud and clear ke? Ataupun, it's not very clear tadi, right? I think dia macam pelan sikit kan? Okay. So, inshallah, I think it will be worth your while. If you have bought something in Johor, Bahru in the last 1 year, you might not be too happy watching tonight because, what you buy might not be so good. So itu je lah, right? So yeah, I think let's quickly start. Let's move on to the presentation, guys. I think I've done the opening, right? So like I said, inshallah, it'll be worth your time. This 1 hour, 2 hour. You can ask questions towards the end. If you have any questions, please don't put it in chat. Put it in the Q&A so that we can sequence the question and then we can answer. And hopefully, by the time we finish tonight, we have answered all of the questions. So the reward, if you stay towards the end, you get to ask question. And like I said, I promise you, either myself or my team will answer your question. The whole idea is to give you a guide. And our guide is not based on our preference. Our guide is going to be highly data-driven. Everything that you will see tonight is actually coming from usage of data. Okay? Coming from usage of data. One of the reasons why we want to do this is that we realize that actually majority people who buy in Johor all don't make money, guys. I mean, like anyone from Singapore watching today ataupun Johor Bahru? Right? Majority of the people who bought in the last 12, 13 years in Johor actually do not make money. I would argue at best 5% can get positive cash flow. All right, in the last 12 to 13 years. So, yeah, correct, right? In the last 12 to 13 years. Very rare. I would argue that maximum 5% of the people who actually bought actually can get positive cash flow. And the reason is because people don't have access to the right side of data. Right? So if you don't have access to the right side of data, the probability of you making the wrong purchase, is going to be quite high, right? So right? So that's the whole idea. We want to make sure that you guys buy at the right price point because, we have entered Johor since year of 2020. Okay, since year of 2020, Alhamdulillah, we don't have anything below 7% rental return. Alhamdulillah, we also don't have anything that has got 20% capital gain minimum, right? Okay lah, 20% bit too high. 10% minimum capital gain in the last 5 tahun, right? So our track record has been 100% lah. We are able to go make money, right? So what's the difference? Data, right? So these are all our Battle Royale episodes. Just follow Faizul Ridzuan via YouTube ataupun Far Capital if you want to go and watch him, right? These are all properties that we have reviewed. Same thing, go and watch our Deal or Grill, right? By just following our YouTube channel. So this is basically has been what is the latest data of today, right? So this is very important, right? Okay. So in Johor, we've got this thing called Tier S, right? So Tier S is a little bit special. Okay, Tier S is anything, I would argue, within a 1.5 kilometer radius to RTS is called Tier S. Boleh jalan kaki pergi RTS means it's Tier S. So faham, eh? So Tier S, only one place in Malaysia which is RTS. Okay. KL tak ada Tier S, Selangor tak ada Tier S, Penang don't have Tier S. Only Johor Bahru saja will have Tier S because of the connectivity to Singapore. Okay. Now, what is interesting here, if you tengok dekat sini, right, that the average property launch price in Tier S as of today is 1,100 ringgit per square foot. Okay. So most of the new launches is going for 1,001 and above. So far follow? While in Tier 1 of Johor Bahru is 750 ringgit per square foot. So those are average new launch price, okay? Now, if you look at the first row, right, median transaction, this is average transacted property price. Tier S today is at 930 ringgit per square foot. Okay? While Tier 1 is at 650 ringgit per square foot. So long story short, majority of the new launch is going anywhere between 15 to 20% higher compared to what is the median price point. Is that expensive, unreasonable? In our opinion, not really. It is still quite okay. But it also means you are overpaying lah. So if you are buying, let's say for example, nearby RTS, and you have paid above 930 per square foot, you need to understand you are paying a premium versus what is the average transacted price. Okay. Now, that's data number one, right? The first two data. The next data will be even more interesting. Okay. At 1,100 ringgit per square foot as of today, there is only 1% saja of the transaction, 1.2% of the overall transaction is happening above 1,001 per square foot. Okay. So, what does this basically means? If you are paid above 1,001 per square foot, right, for you to go and make money, you have to be a top 1%. You have to be extremely lucky. This is basically what it means, right? Because you are overpaying. When you go to Tier 1, there's only 0.7% of the total transaction as of today happening at above 750 ringgit per square foot. Okay, so which is why the recommended price to enter for Tier S, at least for us at Far Capital, is 900 ringgit per square foot. Okay, this is our recommended safe price. There's a lot of margin of safety when you buy at 900 ringgit per square foot. Long story short, this is the recommended price you want to enter if you want to have almost zero possibility of losing money. Okay. And for Tier 1, we don't recommend entering at above 600 ringgit per square foot. So far follow? So this is like the first meaningful slide, and there's already, right, plenty of data and something to ponder, right? Which is why I said If you have bought something already in the last 24 months, very likely you are paying above what we are recommending to buy. Okay. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, Far Capital clients have not bought anything in Tier S because we couldn't buy anything at below 900 ringgit per square foot. Okay. The thing about Far Cap here is that we look at data, we look at fundamental, we don't follow the hype. So if people want to buy 1001, 1002, 1003, 1005 per square foot di RTS, be my guest. We don't play those games. We play a game whereby we want to make sure that we make money. Okay, which is why we have a quite below median recommended price to enter. That's basically what it means, right? Now, does this mean if you enter at 1001, 1002, you confirm lose money? The answer is no. Okay, because we have no idea. Well, we cannot 100% say, right, what's going to be the price point 5 years or 10 years from now, because we're not God, right? But again, if you buy above median, the probability of you making money becomes smaller. That's it. Right? Now, you could pay 1,002 per square foot today, and let's say averagely after 10 years, everything become 1,005, 1,006. Okay? Now, you're going to make 30 to 40%. Yes? Right? But if you enter at 900, you're going to make almost double. Okay? We can only recommend price point that we think is extremely safe. Probability of losing money is almost zero. Right? Okay, you have to remember, we have entered 6-7 developments in Johor Bahru in the last 5 years. We are very selective. All of them make money. There's a reason why we have a recommended entry price. Okay? Now, next slide, please. Okay? So this is to give you an indication, right? To give you an indication, right? What would be the rental yield looks like, right? And this is basically what we have tracked lah, right? So prior to RTS announcement, if you tengok Tier S, you are looking at a rental of 4.5 all the way to 5% saja. Okay? But after RTS announcement, and of course improvement in terms of the commuting post-COVID, rental yield has jumped 7 to 9%. This is just to give you a sense in terms of what happens before RTS happened, what happens after RTS. So RTS, in our opinion, is a super booster. Right? So we've got booster, right? As part of the property consideration, you want to buy property yang ada banyak booster, but RTS is a super booster, which is why it's Tier S. Now, kenapa is a super booster? Is the only thing that is connecting Malaysia to a different country in less than 30 minutes. Okay? There's no such infrastructure dekat Malaysia yang ada that we can use as a base of comparison, which is why RTS is the only place we can label as Tier S. Okay? There is nothing like it. There is no basis of comparison. In many ways that we are basically shooting in the dark. Right? Because there's no other comparison. Tier 1 banyak. Tier 2 banyak. Tier 3 banyak. Tier S, one and only is RTS. We use 8 property filter to determine whether a property is safe to buy or not. So later today, right, when we are doing the property review, we've got 5 property review. These are the hottest property in JB for 2026, right? So we're going to do a rating for each of these property yang paling hot ni. Okay. Now, if you move to the next slide, these are all considerations, right, that we basically use to develop the 8 property filter. Next slide, please. Easier to see. All right. Last time we had 7 criteria. Today we have 8 property filter. So these are the filter that we use to determine whether a property makes sense from an investment POV or not. Okay. So these are the 8 things that we basically look at. Now, if you are wondering how to use this after today, you can again go to our YouTube channel, watch the video that we have basically prepared for 8 property filter. Nah, my team has also shared the link in the chat area so that you guys can click it, have access to it, And then, again, it's completely complimentary, right? You can go and watch it, okay? What I can argue here is that now it's not going to be too easy for you to go and understand firsthand, but if you can deploy this, no one can scam you into buying a bad property in Malaysia. And I don't care whether you are Singaporean or Malaysian or Japanese. If you can understand 8 property filter, no one can scam you into buying a bad property. Even me, I cannot. Okay. So, for example, now when you look at the scoring today, right? So you have to then determine what is your goal when you are looking to buy property in Malaysia. Okay. So we divide property goal into two. One, is it for capital gain? Is it for cash flow? Right? So again, the beautiful thing about what we are doing at FACAP is that we give so much free education, right? And we did deal or grill, right? Whereby we completely review property based on this. Okay. So long story short, guys, if you are looking to buy something with a sure thing of cash flow, you need to find property whereby the cash flow rating from a property filter is 4-star and above. That's when you get positive cash flow. If you are looking to buy something with capital gain, you have to buy something at 3-star and above. Okay. So long story short, we've done the shortcut for you. We have reviewed probably about 80 properties as of today. Go through the list of the properties that we have prepared. Mana tahu the property that you're looking to buy is already part of it. And tonight, we're going to do additional 5 more. Hottest property in Johor. So long story short, if you are too lazy to go and study the hate property filter, just look at the rating. Right? The capital gain, if it's, for example, 3-star and below, means the probability of capital gain is going to be quite low. If it's 1-star, means you're completely overpaying, means the probability of you losing money buying that property is very high. So far, follow? If it's 3-star and above for cash flow, right, it will begin to get positive cash flow. 4-star means it's 500 to about 1,000 ringgit. So it's very rare we can give any property a 4-star rating onwards, guys. Okay. I would argue today in Southeast Asia, this is by far the most complete, right, property review calculator you can find anywhere. Okay. This is based on 20 years experience of me investing and then developing it together with my team. And then we develop this over thousands of units. That's how we come to the 8 property filter, right? So it's free, it's available. You can go to our website to go and check it out. If you want to use the calculator, you can go to our YouTube to watch the content, why we pick based on the 8 filters or 8 criteria. Again, everything is free. Too lazy, just focus on the capital gain rating or just focus on the cash flow rating. Now, when you use the 8 property filter, all right, this is the result that we have been getting, guys. So our focus is going to be focusing on tier 1, right? Tier 1, either is KL, Johor Bahru, or Penang, right? Johor Bahru, Penang, or KL, right? So again, when you use the 8 property filter, this is the kind of result you're going to get. Okay. Guys, last year, for the first time, we entered Penang, right? We have never entered Penang in the history of our capital. Last year was the first time because why? We can buy freehold Penang Island below 450 ringgit per square foot. Low density some more. Right? And it's our first deal in Penang. As of today, units are tenanted at 7% rental return. You have to remember, for context, Penang average rental yield is 3 to 4%. 7% is completely unheard of. Okay? In KL, we are getting anything from 7 all the way to even 10% gross rental yield. Again, KL average rental yield is 4.5 to 5.5%. We are doing double, right? Johor Bahru, average rental yield is between 5 to 6%. We are getting averagely 8 to all the way to even 11%. So this 8 property filter is not a tool for you to play. All right, is a genuinely useful property filter system that will allow you to identify good property versus bad ones. Okay, that's why you want to use the 8 property filter, right? That's how we review property. We also use 8 property filter to review property, right? Next. Okay, Now, this is sample of everything, not everything, like out of 7, we have displayed 5 here, right? These are all properties that we have bought in Johor, right? So we bought in Larkin at 350 per square foot during COVID. Today, new launch in Larkin is 700 ringgit per square foot, right? Larkinton, right, is 750 per square foot. We bought at 350 only, guys, in the year of 2020, 2021. Okay. Today, our rental yield is almost 10%. Positive cash flow close to 1,000. Capital gain today, 350 to about 500 ringgit. So it's close to 50%. Okay. So when you look at it here, right, we have entered multiple developments. And all of this development is positive cash flow. All of this development is registering capital gain. And again, we've entered this is 2020. This wasn't that long ago. This isn't a story of you bought 10 years ago, sure make money, right? So again, if you can use 8 property filter, you are going to be able to go and do and get similar results to this, all right? So which is why, like I said, use 8 property filter so that you can identify good ones versus bad ones. You can become completely scam proof. No one can scam you into buying a bad property. Okay. So this is our track record. And I think the track record speaks by itself and why a property filter is going to be useful. Next. Right. Again, these are sample of properties that we have bought, not in Johor Bahru alone, but multiple of other areas. So when you look at it here, these are things that we are buying today, whereby as of today, we think that the positive cash flow, again, for below 600,000 will actually be quite decent. Right? These are all below market. These are all property you can buy at below 600,000 ringgit, below market value, and will have positive cash flow on top of giving you cash out. And just to share where we are today from a property cycle point of view, right? Oh, by the way, this is a tier. Please screenshot this, right? Please screenshot this, right? If you are wondering, right? You know, the tier S definition, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, this is what it is for Johor Bahru. Okay. Next slide, please. If we are talking about area, right? These are area that we think are tier S, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Okay. Again, you can screenshot this as a reference. Right? Now, coming back to the property cycle, we believe that majority of the property market in Malaysia, we're talking about Klang Valley, you're talking about Penang, we are now at the end of the recovery, heading towards the boom. Okay, while Johor Bahru has already entered boom as of today, and we think the boom in Johor Bahru will continue to happen up until 2027, 2028. Sorry, 2028, 2029. Okay, now, why do we say 2028, 2029, guys? Why? Can anyone guess or not? If you can guess, I can give you a present. Because RTS is completing this year, right? End of the year. Okay. So it's not because of RTS. Right? The answer to that is supply, guys. The number of supply in Johor Bahru will peak, right, in the 2028, 2029. Okay. Around RTS alone, right? Around RTS alone, within walking distance to RTS, in 2028, 2029, you are looking at close to 20,000 units. Just RTS, walking distance. Right? Additional units, okay? Within 5 kilometer radius to RTS, 60,000 units. Right? Completing. Right? So, is it going to be result in a property crash? We do not think so. But, like I said, it will peak at that point of time. Right? Now, whether it will continue to grow or not, it depends on the market at that point of time, the level of acceptance for Singaporean to stay in Johor. Because Malaysia, local Malaysian will not absorb many of the supply going for 600, 700, 1,000, 1,500 ringgit per square foot. The only ones who will absorb the supply is either people who are working in Singapore but can't afford to stay in Singapore, or Singaporeans looking to retire in Malaysia because, again, it's too expensive to retire in Singapore. Make sense, guys? Right? So, I will tell you second half of 2027 or early of 2038 where we are. But as of today, if you look at the supply will peak 2028, 2029. Okay, so I can see a lot of people can guess what's the answer. Good, very smart crowd tonight. So again, this is just talking about supply in Tier S. You can see here, just Tier S alone up until 2030 is going to be 17,200 units. Okay, this is basically 400%, guys, higher than the supply today. Okay, 400% higher than the supply today. And this is not really a new presentation. This is something that we have presented actually last year. Okay. And what is funny, by the way, I guess, after we presented that Tier S will have oversupply, multiple property developers actually reduce their price point and their launch price. I'm not sure if you are aware, right? In the last 6 months to 9 months, a lot of developments in Tier S, specifically nearby TS, reduce their price point. That means more discount. That means more rebate. Right? We have a feeling that they are watching, our presentation, and the developers are acting accordingly, which in a way is good, right? So the other hypothesis here from the team today was that Tier S is looking more affordable today at 900 to about 1,000 ringgit per square foot rather than buying Tier 1 at 750 to 850 ringgit per square foot. All right? And I agree with the hypothesis. There's only one Tier S in the country. At 900 ringgit per square foot, again, our guide is pretty clear. We would rather buy Tier S. Okay? Tier 1, 600 ringgit per square foot, tops. So again, yield today is high because many of these new launches haven't been completed yet. Okay? So far, when we study the market, we have not seen any market whereby the rental yield remains high once you add the supply by at least double. Now, this area is not just double, we are talking about quadruple. Okay? So yields today can be quite attractive. What you don't want to do is to be suckered into today's yield only to find out that the rental yield ataupun the rental rate goes down 3 to 4 years from now because there are too many supply. Okay? So jangan percaya sangatlah cakap agent. That's what I'm trying to say. Right? You have to take into consideration of the incoming supply. Now, I could be wrong. Right? We could be completely wrong. Right? That property market becomes 2,000 ringgit per square foot. Right? For RTS 5 years from now. We could be completely wrong here. Right? So even at 1,200, 1,300, you make good money. But if you are doing 2,000 ringgit per square foot dekat RTS, what happens to far cap players who buy 350 and 400, guys? We make even more. You make 60%. We'll probably make triple. You understand the whole point? I could be wrong, but even if I'm wrong, my clients will make more money. Right? And if I'm right, you don't make money. My clients are still making money. Right? So, either way, like I said, you want to protect your downside. That's what we're trying to say. Next. Okay. So again, these are things that we have bought in Johor, right? We are true to our what we have basically pitched. If you recall, we don't buy anything in Tier 2 at above 500 ringgit per square foot. We don't buy anything at Tier 1 above 600 ringgit per square foot. We have not bought anything in tier S at all because we couldn't buy anything at 900 ringgit per square foot and below. Okay, so when you look at our properties, we have always bought tier 1, we've always bought tier 2. And almost all of the projects, I think with exception of one, we have actually purchased at below 500 ringgit per square foot. Now, as a result of using 8 property filter, buying the property at the right price point using bulk purchase, all of these properties are today positive cash flow. They all have minimum 20% capital gain. Okay, right? Minimum 20% capital gain. Okay, so we like the idea. We don't follow the hype of RTS. Everyone busy buying RTS. Guess what? Last year we don't buy RTS. We buy landed property 350,000 for double story. Right, below 200 ringgit per square foot, guys. And people think 1,002 RTS good deal. We bought 200 ringgit per square foot landed property brand new in a tier 1 area too. Right, can get 7% rental yield for landed property. Yeah, for landed property. So we like to play those kind of game whereby we buy underrated, undervalued property rather than we buy into the hype. Okay, so that strategy has not been wrong for us. We've done very well. Our clients are very happy, right? And today we are buying somewhere in tier 1 also, and we are buying the cheapest branded residence, right, in the tier 1 area, right, at below 350,000 ringgit, right, below 550 ringgit per square foot. So we like to buy things that is completely undervalued, right, rather than again follow the hype lah. Next. Right, let's just sample of the units that we are buying, and what kind of rental we are getting. And this is the one that we just mentioned, right? This is 70% LTV friendly because it's a non-HDA property. This is, by the way, completed property, right? 350,000, 550 ringgit per square foot, not very high density, right? So literally quite cheap lah, 350, non-HDA. So that means even on 70% financing, you can buy this zero down as a local Malaysian, right? As a local Malaysian, you can buy this zero down. What is even more amazing about this property here is that it is located in a special economic zone that even when you, a foreigner, you can actually own a 350,000 property in Johor, right? Because otherwise, it's minimum 500,000. Okay. So this property, 70% LTV friendly, positive cash flow possibility is very high. We are buying it really below median, completely under market value, right? There's no limit for foreigner to own a 350,000 property, right? And again, on top of that, this is going to be an area that has got a lot of booster coming up. So we think the capital gain on this property is going to be quite amazing. Again, 70% LTV friendly, right? Don't need to put any down payment even on 70% financing. So this is the people who should be looking at buying, right? 70% LTV property owners, right? Number 2, you want to buy completed property so that you can, continue to buy again. You can collect cash flow today rather than waiting 3 to 4 years, uncertain, right? Number 3, people who are looking for capital gain because there's a lot of boosters coming up. And last but not least is people who are working in Singapore looking to buy something extremely affordable, branded residence at below 350,000 ringgit. Right? So yeah, this is people who should be looking at buying this property. Next. All right. So why do we like to buy from property developers? Right? So we like to buy from property developer rather than buy subsale because capital. Right? The capital required to buy from developer, even as a non-Malaysian, if you buy the right property, it can be zero. Right? If you buy subsale, you buy auction. Auction potentially you can buy cheaper compared to us. Subsale unlikely. Right? Unlikely. But auction you can, but you need a lot of capital. Right? Now, if you are Malaysian working in Singapore, if you are Singaporean, right, working in Singapore, looking to buy something in Johor, we don't recommend using money to go and buy this. So we don't recommend converting Singapore dollars to ringgit. Right? We don't recommend converting Singapore dollars to ringgit. Why? There's a possible currency depreciation risk, which is why we like to buy new property, because new property normally you can buy tanpa modal without using any capital. Right? Our Singapore-based clients has been buying in Johor, has been buying in KL, all using little to no capital. Most of the time, they don't use any capital, they will actually get cash out. So not only you don't use any money to buy, you actually get cash. We call it cash out lah, because you are buying at 30, 40, 50, sometimes 60% discount versus SPA. From a philosophy point of view, we don't recommend you use a lot of capital to go and buy anything in Malaysia because of the currency exchange risk, right? Especially if you're already working in Singapore and you are earning in Sing dollars. Okay. Now, in the event you want to use capital, you are putting money at the 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 ringgit, right? You should target property that can give you a minimum 10% return on capital, ROI lah, right? So basically, if you need to use capital, the guideline for us is that minimum 10% cash on cash return or return on capital. Okay, which is why we find it quite funny to see a bunch of Singaporeans looking to buy something in RTS, right? Could not get 100% loan because the bank don't value the property and they are putting 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 down payment to go and buy those property. We find it to be quite amusing because, you know, there's a possibility that the ringgit will depreciate versus Sing dollars. So you could end up making 30% gain after 10 years. But if the currency depreciate by 30 to 50%, you don't make anything. Which is why don't use any capital, guys, to go buy something in Johor. And if you want to use, minimum 10%. Right? Why? So that in the event there's a currency depreciation, you are still collecting 10% returns every year. Okay lah. You know what I mean? It's not so bad. Yeah, after 10 years of minimum 10%, you collect 100% mah. So at least not so bad. Okay. But like I said, I've seen so many people buying, putting 100,000, 200,000 in payment. Every month is still not even positive cash flow. So your return is negative. Right? So I'm also not sure why you buy. Right? Why are you buying? Doesn't make sense. Mathematically, it does not make sense. You're basically gambling. Right? So, yeah. So again, we don't recommend using capital to buy something in Malaysia because of the currency depreciation. All of our Singapore-based clients, we tell them just buy something that you can buy without using any capital. Right? And if you have to use capital, the minimum targeted return on capital must be at least 10%. All right? These are basically rules. You know, with you can screenshot this if you want. Right? You can screenshot this if you want. But I think we've spoken about this already. The only thing I probably have to highlight here is that if you are non-Malaysian, right, whether you're Singapore-based ataupun, you know, from any other country, please only buy in Tier 1 areas. Tier 1 is where all the expats and all the international communities are. All right? So, if you are a non-Malaysian, please don't buy Tier 2. Please don't buy Tier 3. Because you cannot exit to a fellow foreigner. Okay? The rest of it, minimum 20% below market, minimum 10% ROI, 6% gross anti yield, and you have to do above average renovation because the competition is bad. All right, if you continue to do that, you're going to be fine buying something in Malaysia. Remember, 95% people don't make money buying in Malaysia. You want to be the 5%. Our clients 100% are making money, right? Because they follow this. Got comment? Still need to put in for lawyer fee and MOT, but cash out will get later. That one is for non-far capital client. Right? So for a lot of far capital clients, even MOT, legal fee, we count him upfront. So you are literally no capital. Okay? Literally no capital. We already know, right? All of the requirements, right? From a cash out point of view. We've already organized, again, that's the power of buying 30 units or 50 units. We can negotiate all of this upfront, guys. Right? You can't do this on one deal, but on 50 units, it's quite easy for us. right? So many of our clients, even MOT is covered. Developer pay first, right? Legal fee, same. Okay. So buying strategy, right? So I think that's the question. Explain cash out portion, right? And what's the advantage? What's the disadvantage here? Because your installment will be higher. Now I'm gonna explain to you why. So ngam, you ask this, right? Here's the answer. Okay. Look, this is how we make results predictable, right? So, we've done this in Johor, we've done this in Penang, we've done this in Perak, we've done this in KL, Selangor, Nilai. Now we're about to go do this in Langkawi too. And again, how do we make sure the result is predictable? Is that you follow specific system processes and SOP, right? First, you have to make sure you buy the lowest price point, right? Second, you make sure you get the cheapest loan. Okay. Third, when you get maximum discount, you also get maximum cash out. Okay. So for example, people who are on 70% loan, they cannot buy property because they need to use a lot of capital. There's only a problem if you're not a far cap client. When you're a far cap client, you get 40%, 50% discount. So we are about to launch something nearby KLCC, 43 or 44% discount. So even on 70% LTV, right, you can get 100,000 cash out. Okay. Then the question come in. FR. I take more cash out means my loan will be more expensive. What's the advantage here? Again, when you take cash out, you got budget to renovate your unit properly. When you renovate your unit properly, you're going to get the best possible tenant. The best possible tenant don't pay market rate. They are quite happy to go and pay 10, 20, 30, 40, 50%. Your argument makes sense if you take cash out and then you put lousy unit into the market. And then you are competing with all of the other people, right? So that means your unit sucks up and you have 100 of people competing with you. So far follow? The goal of FACAP, when you buy the lowest price point, number one, you are already safe from an entry price point of view. On top of that, because of the maximum discount, you get the cash out, you have bullets to go and renovate your unit properly. And when you do renovate your unit properly, you get the best possible tenant who pays top dollar. So far, you guys follow? And again, we are doing all of this with little to no capital. All right? Again, predictably, across multiple projects in Johor Bahru in the last 5 years, right? Across multiple states. Same strategy, same SOP, same result. Okay, again, last year is the first time we've entered Penang in the last 10 years. So it was first project in Penang. Average rental at that place, right, was 3,000 ringgit. Our recent tenancy was 4,003. 1 year ago, it's 3,000, I guess. Today, we're getting 4,003. That is a 40% higher rental. All right? Because we put 20% higher in terms of renovation budget. Right? So you spend 30% more, max, you get 30 to 40% higher rental. Yeah? So far, you guys follow? Right? So then the question here is that, okay, I'm competing with our fellow far capital clients. Yeah, you are. Right? But how are you more advantageous if you buy from outside at 100 ringgit per square foot more, you got no cash out, your renovation sucks, right? How are you competing? So I would argue that it's better to compete with far cap clients rather than you have to compete outside. Okay. So again, it's your call. If you are choosing to pay higher for the same property, you get less cash out, you get less discount, your unit is going to be less competitive. You're going to lose big time to our clients for sure. All right? Confirm. Okay, because again, the result is proven. We have done this across multiple states. multiple projects, multiple developments. Now, I guess I can argue that the highest number of completed properties that we have bought in one single development, by the way, guys, is 400 units. One single development, we bought 400 units. That whole development got 3,700 units. So we own roughly about 12%. Is that a lot? 400 units, far capital clients, single development, a lot, right? But we follow this principle. Our unit is the nicest. So either you do short-term rental, co-living rental, medium-term rental, long-term rental, our unit will always be top 3%. So far follow? Right? So when you are the top from a unit punya facility POV, it's just very easy to go and get tenants to go and pay top dollars. So which is why our co-living today is at 98% occupancy rate. All right. Units that did not do very well doing short term after being converted to long-term rental immediately get record high rentals. 850 square foot renting at 3,005. Okay. And last but not least, when you become a FACAP client, right, we only buy property that's got multiple rental options. So you get a co-living possibility whereby you do rental per room. You got long-term rental, you got medium-term rental, and you can do Airbnb short-term. So 400 units, maybe 100 goes for short-term, 100 goes for long-term, 100 go for medium-term, 100 go for co-living. Okay, so no matter how you slice and dice it, buying at the cheapest price possible, making your unit to be as nice as possible is the biggest competitive advantage. As a FACAP client or not, it does not matter. Does that make sense, guys? You have to buy the lowest price point. You gotta prepare your unit to be the nicest. That's how you compete and always win. So this is an example, guys, of a unit. This is in OUG, by the way, right? Not Bukit Jalil, this is in OUG. Okay. If you look below, the average rental is 3,005 before we came along, right? Today, we are getting average of 5,004. Their units going for 5,005, 5,008 transacted, guys. Long-term rental, by the way. But our unit look like this. Okay. This one, we probably bought about 60 units. Majority of the units are tenanted within a month. Because why? Not every unit, not all 60 units is going to be made available the same month. So some people take longer to reno, collect keys, etc., etc. Okay. And again, guys, this is tanpa modal, no capital. This one foreigner can buy because SPA price 1.5 billion. Net price 800,000. Our discount is close to 50%. Freehold KL, lower city some more. Right? So again, when we say do your unit nice, this is what we mean. This is the minimum standard. Right? Now, if you don't buy with enough discount, you worry because, alamak, I'm going to use a lot of my own cash. Okay? Under this, it's not your money. It's coming from the cash out. You guys understand? So again, MOT is paid for by the developer. Legal fees paid for by the developer. You don't have to pay anything first. Once you get the keys, you get your cash out, we will recommend you multiple, renovation contractor you can use depending on your rental strategy. And then you go and execute. Okay. Now, if you go to the next slide, you will realize that all of our units are top tier. So that means if you go to any of these development, our unit will be the nicest top 10%. And I don't care whether you do co-living, long-term rental, short-term rental, medium-term rental. Okay. Now, if you notice, all of this rental that I'm saying, these are basically long-term rental. These are all one-year tenancy. Okay. We don't use short-term rental as an indication the property is good. Sebab, if you have attended many of our webinar, me, Sean, Iherng, all have similar POV. If you use short-term rental, every property will look good. Right? If you use short-term rental, every property will look good. So all of the rental that we use here is actually based on long-term rental. This is latest, so public, market rental, this area, this is Hatamas, 1-bedroom unit, 1,009 to 2,002. We are getting transacted 2,008 all the way to 3,003. So again, guys, the game plan, if you are looking to buy something in Malaysia, if you're not Malaysian or you're looking to do something in Johor, whereby there's a lot of unit, you have to make sure your unit looks good. Because there's a lot of tenant who can pay. Okay? A lot of clients who can pay if your unit is good enough. Okay? And you have to remember the competition is all kedekut kiam sap one. Right? They're all trying to save money, put laucha stuff in their unit and whatnot. And as a result, they attract the worst quality tenant. They don't maintain your property, right? After 3 months of paying, delay lah, right? So when your unit sucks, you attract sucks tenant. So I always tell my client, we are trying to compete for the top 10, top 20% of the rental market. All right? Let the poorer investors go and target the bottom feeder tenants who is very price sensitive. We play the exact opposite. Again, this is pinning. This is recently concluded at 4,003. Again, this is not asking, already tenanted. All right, 1 year ago, 2007, 3,003 was the highest. Today, we're getting 4,003. And I told people in Penang, all them kedekut one. They don't want to spend money on furnishing. Right? So if we do our unit properly, we're going to be able to go and attract Caucasians retiring in Penang, looking to stay, looking to explore, right? And true enough, we're getting 4,003. And again, don't have to wait 3 months to go and get tenant. This is a 1 month wait maximum. All right? Some of our units, the one that we display, is tenanted before it was even fully renovated. So this is just a case study. If I want to do short term, I guess, our highest recorded positive cash flow from one unit short-term rental is actually 15,000 ringgit per month. One unit provide positive cash flow 15,000 ringgit per month. So I don't want to use that unit simply because otherwise, it's like scamming people using an anomaly. I don't like to do that. So I would rather use what we think that almost everyone should be able to go and accomplish using a proper SOP or process. So guys, we are now entering, right? So we've set the context. We tell you why we use a property filter, how can you use it to make it useful for your investment journey. We've set the context too, right? In terms of how do you play it safely for 2026, right? What do you look for in Johor? So now I'm going to hand over the floor to my team to go and do the property review. And then after that, we go to the Q&A, right? So Zach, I think you're presenting first, is it?
True.
Okay, floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Faizul. All right. So hi everybody, Zakri here. So today we are reviewing few property based on the context today. We are not talking about everything in JB, but we are here to show based on the hot picks properties in the area lah, which is Johor context lah. So these are the properties that we're going to review. So those are first one is gonna be One Sentosa, one of the hottest projects. Once they launched last time, it only takes about 1 to 2 days for them to fully book, right? It's located at Tier 1 JB. Next is Atera Residence. One is a really recent launch. Is a long wait, pre-launch, would say, right? It's located really near to RTS. So we're gonna go and see what's a verdict on that Atera Residence. It's located roughly about less than 200-meter walking to RTS. It's located in Tier S. Amberwood Resort Residence is located at Tier 1. Skapak Kepler located at Tier 1. Right, and last but not least is Avenue Residences. It's one of the hottest projects also in Johor Bahru, right, located at Tier 1. So first thing first, we are going to go through Sky Park Kepler. This one is by Tropicana, located in one of the upcoming master plan called Lido Waterfront in JB Tier 1, right? That's roughly about 5 kilometer distance from this particular master plan and this particular site to RTS location, right? It's just about one road away only, right? Total units about close to 1,600. It's a freehold development. Layout size, it's quite straightforward. They have one bedder, two bedder, and three bedder, ranging from 463 up until 807 square feet. Year of completion, looking at about 3 to 4 years from today lah. It's about Q4 2029. Number of story is 54 story. Just by the way, these particular developments, they are going to be a branded operator called Banyan, right? Banyan operator. So this one is can be considered as is a four-star branded residence, right? So the Banyan one is not gonna be the top tier premium one. It's gonna be on the sub-tier, right, on the four-star operation on these particular developments, right? On the facilities, they're gonna have about 40 plus facilities. As claimed by developer, is gonna be as premium as a resort feelings a little bit, right? And amenities, these are those you can go and screenshots. This one is located really near to one of the government hospital, and this one is located on the um reclaimed land in JB area, right? Along the stretch of Johor Bahru punya area, right? And these are agents marketing POV. They are looking at location, roughly about less than 5 kilometers to Bukit Jaga RTS link stations to also the first CIQ, right? And also it's a freehold development, which most of the unit can go and see the sea view, else can go and see Singapore skyline views as well, right? And again, to mention here, premium branded residence is gonna be operated by Banyan, and also premium and luxury facilities. They have about 40-ish number of facilities once they completed. All right. And this is on the investment POV. Net price, they are looking at about 980 ringgit, starting from roughly PESF up to about 1,003 and up to 1,006. They have about few tiers on the pricing, but the lowest one roughly about 900 plus PSF. This one is looking at about close to RTS launching price already today, and that's about slightly above RTS JB tier S median subsale as of today lah, right? Transaction. And for non-RTS to compare is about 650 ringgit PSF. And this one again located not really on the RTS vicinity. It's roughly about 5 kilometers away from RTS, which is about 3 to 4 kilometers from tier S vicinity lah. Alright. And rental wise, we do compare the most closest one as of today. Country Garden, one of the famous development in Johor Bahru, which they are looking at one bedder, two bedder, and three bedder, roughly about 2,000 ringgit for one bedder, up to two bedder is up to 2,006, and three bedder up to 3,500 ringgit per month. So this one is based on the whole unit rental basis, right? And to compare on the mortgage perspective, they are looking at about potentially a positive cash break even up to slight positive cash flow if you are looking at mortgage versus a rental at 90% on these particular developments. I would say this one is one of the um, comparable rental on Country Garden as of today, right? Because again, they are located on the sea reclaimed land at JB area, and this one is not to say not too far from JB RTS lah, roughly about 5 kilometers away lah, right? To compare again, is roughly about up to break even up to a slightly positive cash flow for all of the layout lah, right? And this is the verdict by using a property filter. Price wise, it's roughly stating about 2 star, right? Again, is to compare. This one is not really located at RTS, but as of today, we do compare this launching price, this lowest launching price versus the median subsale transaction at RTS as well as JB Tier 1, right? By those consideration, we are looking at 2 star. Booster wise, this is not really fully impacted by RTS, but again, yeah, more overall Johor will have a slight spillover on RTS um, as a booster, right? And booster sitting at about 4 star, and the rest you can go and have a look. But roughly, I would like to mention here cash flow is not too bad, where you can get positive cash flow from break even, right? And USP sitting about 2 star, whereby it's considering one of the premium branded residents, right? Operated by branded branded operator, right? And last but not least, your capital gain rating and cash flow rating, right? So you can see here the capital gain rating is sitting roughly about 2.33 star and cash flow rating roughly about 3.6 star, right? So cash flow rating we are quite going to see quite normal to see in Johor Bahru. As of today, the rental yield again, average rental yield sitting roughly about 6 up to about 8% rental yield on the range, right? So hence you can see quite a lot of developments can command good rental cash flow as of today, right? But another concern is again the pricing, which potentially affecting much on the capital gain rating, about sitting about 2.3 star for this particular developments by using a property filter, right? So next property is Avenue Residences. So this is one of the famous developments as well, under local developer MBW, right? So this one is located not too far also from JBRTS CIQ first link, roughly about 2 kilometer-ish only. So this one is also considered part of Tier 1 JB. The location, they have completed portfolio, phase 1 and phase 2, called Veranda as well as Trellis. So this Avenue Residences is the latest, which gonna be completed about 1 year plus from today lah, right? So number of unit roughly about 1,007, close to 1,008 units for the entire developments. Is a freehold. Layout size that they offer, from one bedder to three bedder. For one bedder, roughly sizing about 400 plus to close to 700 plus for two bedder, and there are three bedders sitting about 860 to 1,000 square feet. But both is dual key convertible, right? So this is quite a unique move for the layout, I would say, right? As of today, year of completion again, is gonna be roughly about end of year next year, 2027. And these are those facilities. Would say this spec of facilities is suits the mass product of JB Tier 1 spec, right? Can say it's quite complete, okay? But not too basic, but and also not too premium, I would say, right? And these are the amenities are located in the fringe of Jalan Tun Abdul Razak, one of the famous road connecting south to the north area of Johor Bahru, all right? This is the agent's marketing POV, prime location and connectivity. We would agree on that because of it's located about 2 kilometer-ish from RTS, and you're not paying RTS premium as of today, lah. All right. Shuttle service to CIQ again. It's quite normal to see this kind of USP on most of the developments in GB as of today, right? Best convenience with great amenities, and it's a freehold developments, right? On the investment POV, roughly pricing sitting about 760 ringgit PSF as of today, right? Again, to compare, the JB Tier 1 roughly about sitting about 650 ringgit PSF median transaction. You are looking at about slightly above about 100 ringgit-ish, right? At this price, again, it's quite normal to see JB Tier 1 developments to go and um, launch at 700 up to 800 ringgit PSF as of today lah. And this pricing for these developments is within the range, right? And rental, we take the close comparable, which is under the same master plan, under the same developer, which completed already, Trellis. For studio, up until three bedder, they are looking at about 1,000 up to 1,007 for studio, one bedder up to 22, two bedder is up to 25, and three bedder up to 3,001. I would say we would see this kind of a rental is considered one of the premium in tier 1 as of today, right? Because the rental and PSF POV is considered one of the on the higher range, on a higher bracket average, right? And to compare to mortgage, you are looking at about 1,006 up to 2,900. Again, you are comparing those developments, those mortgage versus the rental that you are looking at. Potentially, you are looking at about positive cash flow, especially the three-bedder rental. You are looking at about potentially up to four-figure punya positive cash flow due to the very convenient size, practical. It's dual key convertible, right? For this particular developments, right? So last but not least, a property filter. So price-wise, we considered it as 3 star, all right? As of now, it's not really on the higher range, right? Yes, some of the unit pricing really high, right? Considering the starting price of the launch price is considered in the average of the launch price versus the median. So the verdict is roughly about 3 star. Booster wise, again, this is tier 1, is roughly about 4 star. Supply versus demand, 2.7 star roughly. So those are these. USP, you're looking about 2 star, right? And last but not least is ROC cash flow and ROC cash flow are looking at 4 star. Again, this is one of the best, I would say, historically and based on the proven case, the next door looking at about really good cash flow lah for these particular developments. Hence, we see the final rating over here. Again, the capital gain rating is still sitting below 3 star, but it's already close. Okay, about close to 2.8 star. But cash flow rating is sitting about 3.4 star lah. Again, it justify the cash flow consideration just now. Okay, so next property, I think I'll pass to Albee.
Okay, so guys, I'm going to continue the presentation. For the property review tonight is going to be by Chin Hee, is Amber Resort Residence. So next slide, this would be the details of the property. So it has 824 units, Tower A and B, leasehold. So size-wise, is 560 square feet up to 872 square feet. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath. So size-wise, I think it's kind of catching up with current layouts being introduced in the area. Focusing on small up to big sizes, but not too big sizes for own stay. Is more on investment verdict. Okay, completion would be in 2029. Number of story facilities. I would say they are advertising for resorts wide facilities, what I consider quite all right. Not to say very, very stand out, because I would say that nowadays projects that has been launched around this area will be introduced with similar facilities, I would say quite normal. Okay, this is the amenities you guys can screenshot. So the next slide will be the marketing point of view from the marketing agency or agents that we saw online. So probably people are talking, if let's say you're not really sure what Albee talking about, people will say, oh, this is also considered tier 1, prime locations, with excellent connectivities. But to me, this, if let's say you're comparing to all those in the JBCC or like the other tier 1 more towards the Mid-Valley Southeast area, this is maybe not that prime comparing to all that. So location, so I put it on a red marker lah. Okay, price wise, I would consider this is quite affordable because this is what they have been advertising. Please, guys, you can look on the next slide. So in terms of their price point, their current net price is ranging from about 570 up to 600 per square feet. So median of these non-RTS areas transaction is about close to 650 per square feet. So in terms of what they are advertising on the affordable prices that you can own with the hype of this JB today, I would say consider quite okay, because if you look at the rental, currently with the nearest we have Epic Residence in the town. So similar sizing, okay, for this 1 bed, so it's going to be positive cash flow about 200 to per month lah, for 1 bed up to the 3 beders. You guys can look here. So that's why when agents were advertising for affordable pricings, is reason, quite logic, and with the cash flow being projected around the area, I was considered quite okay, because this is not considered tier 1 area. This is more towards the other side, more towards Tangga Bay, Lakins, or not really the JBCC center side. Okay, so the next slide would be the investment property filter for this Amberwood. So in terms of price, to give you 3.2, because I would say consider quite okay, but anyhow, we are riding on this RTS hype and things, right? This would be just slightly below the area transacted median. But this is not a prime location area as well. That's why it was ranged at 3.2 with the comparable in the area and upcoming supply. So booster wise, I will say for this is not premium. Supply and demand 3.8. Multiple rental option is 3, because it's more focusing on whole new rental. Airbnb you can do as well, but then it would be limited supplies because it's not prime area. Cash flow with 4. USP to me is 2.0. Okay, with the locations itself. Return on capital gain is 3, cash flow is 4. Hence, summarize the capital gain rating for this is 2.7. Cash flow rating is 3.4. Okay, next one we have will probably be at the one we have just launched. Not to say just launched, it launched quite a time, but then it's quite hot when it was launched last year. This is by TS Law. Skyline 1 Sentosa at Sentosa area. If you guys are new and people are kind of wondering, so TS Law or this Skyline series is kind of popular among Klang Valley. Sorry, so when they first introduced this in Johor, people are kind of get excited about, right? There's one, TS Law have started their new development township in, not to say township, but a new development in JB. So this is their first one they introduced. So they are kind of smart. They put up some of the what have they actually advertised last time, like the embassy site last time. So it's kind of popular among all the Singaporeans. So when it was launched, actually a lot of people buying on because they are quite close to the Mid-Valley South ski area, and they are going to demolish the Plaza Sentosa. So for those who actually been at the area, they kind of know the location as well. So number of units for this is 1,633 units. This is going to be a freehold. And as far as a concern, they will come in with another batch up. Okay. So layout wise, okay, they have studio, smaller sites up to 3-bedder, 945 square feet. And they are, in terms of blocks, why they actually make it very, very strategic because they have segregated into 2 blocks. So block A is mainly for investment. So it's going to be an Airbnb oriented, focusing on small sizes. The block B is going to be focusing on long-term and own stay. So it actually solves concern of people of having privacy issues. So they actually have make it into 2 different blocks. So it won't, if you want to do Airbnb investment, you go with the first block. You want for own stay long-term whole unit, you just go with the second blocks with the bigger sizes. Okay, facilities, they have ghost simulator, karaoke, mini theater, spin room. This is the explore style. They will do something quite fancy in the area. Okay, so next, this is why it explained when it comes to the marketing point of view from the agents, they will advertise this as premium luxury facilities as well. Then other than this, they also have 32 retail shop lots coming down. So it's provide more convenience for the people staying around. Okay, and they also have, like I say, this Airbnb friendly. They will have a shuttle bus service as well. This is be freehold. So next slide would be the current price point from the one Sentosa, which you guys can see. I would say this one Sentosa price point is about 900-ish, 930-ish per square feet. And I saw people are discussing whether this is being slightly overpriced for being at, not to say tier S, but tier 1 area lah, because it's near to Sentosa side, KL Esplanade, Mid Valley South area, not really JBCC side. Okay, but then they are asking to sell about 930 per square foot. Because the new transaction around, for example, is about 730 per square foot only. Okay, so that's why it comes to a concerns when people are arguing the prices for this. But then they counter with the premium facilities and then upscale of the JBCC, RTS, and ART station that will come up. Okay, so if let's say you look at the prices for the rental, rental of this area is running way too good. And if let's say those who actually been in like Mid Valley, they know lah, the Airbnb was doing quite well as well. So if you look at the mortgage and also rental, it is going to be a positive cash flow of about 300 to 400 each for whole unit rental as well for this one Sentosa. And I saw some agent was quite crazy. They advertise of the return on investment about 12%, but calculate wise is about 8% each lah, which is for JB, I would consider is quite normal, because JB today your rental will fall about 7 to 10 is considered normal. But then to achieve like 10 and above, you probably have to do some other rental options, probably like Airbnbs that give you much more cash flow per month. But then of course the uncertainty depends on what you want. That's why it comes with 2 blocks for you to choose in this one Sentosa. Okay, the next slide is the 8 property filter for the Skyline 1 Sentosa. So if you look at price, I would say 2.3 together with the argument of the price being whether this is overpriced, you know, with the current transactions in the area and asking. Booster wise is 4, this is not really, to me, okay, there's still something to come up, not to say as good as compared to JBCC. Supply and demand to 3.7, there's quite a number of supplies coming out in this tier 1 area. Multiple rental option going 4-star because you can do Airbnb, long-term whole unit, and even co-living will be doable in this area as well. Cash flow is 4, USP is 3, considering facilities and also convenience, I mean the store, commercial store downstairs. Okay, return of capital gain, cash flow is 3, multiple exit option, I'll go with 2. Okay, so capital final is 3.3, cash flow is 3.8, considering the cash flow being provided lah. Okay, so the next one, I think this is the last one we will have today, which is, I would say, Atera Residence by UOA. Okay, so last time when we reviewed this, the information was not complete. We only gave a rough idea what they're going to do, but then they don't really give out the details. So out of so many, I think we have actually discussed quite a number of property in this JBCC tier S area. Most of it come with high density, like 1,000-ish, 1,006, 2,000 units, few batches. Okay, so at Terra Residence, I would consider this is something slightly different because number of units being provided is 786 units. So consider low density. It's a freehold, and then the layout size is quite interesting as well. Why everyone was launching for a small size, trying to maximize, 500 square feet for a 1+1 or 2 bedroom. But then UA being UA, their main focusing is going to be livable, which you guys can look at the livable and practical. You can look at their standard launch in KL. They are more on livable standard. Okay, so that's why when it comes to this, their smaller size is 650 square feet, is a 2 bed, 1 bath, and then they even launch up to 1,001 or 2,002 for a duplexes unit, which is targeting for own stay, and they are targeting for those Singaporean who wanted to come out for retirement, which had up on the Astaga good sales as well, because Astaga also go with big sizes and they are doing quite good as for now as well. So UA being UA, they are kind of reputable developer. So when they launch this, their sales was pulling quite fast as well because of the sizing and the price. So completion of this is going to be 2030. And also they will be having ART station 150 meters away, which is actually just next door. And then they will have cover link bridge and cover walkway all the way to RTS. So 58-story facilities to me consider quite okay lah. UA standard, okay, which you see whichever I can name it, all the UA product, they have similar facilities. Okay, so next slide would be the marketing point of view from the agency. So they have direct proximity towards RTS. They have actually labeled it, and if you went to the showroom, you don't really have those uncertainty whether they will have this link bridge or cover walkway. Everything they have already gotten the approval, which when you visit their show unit, you can actually have a look. So there's no uncertainty that this is not going to be there, okay? Because people will argue this at Terra Residence compared to those really close towards JBCC, this is slightly further already. But then they have actually gotten the approval for doing the link bridge and cover walkway. So they are talking about seamless cross-border because they have ART station coming up. Prime locations, strong investment potential. So, and because this is reputable from UA. So it come to an interesting point of view for the prices. So last time when we talk about this, there are rumors speculate about that this UA going to launch for about 1,003 per square foot, because that time Axim, Gen Sphere, Gen Rises were about 1,003-ish to 1,004 per square feet. So looking at the less premium area within this JBCC, so they are targeting to launch at 1,003. But then when they come back to today, once they have started to launch it, the next price is about close to 1,001 or 1,002 per square feet only. It's not that high compared to last time. Okay. Then I would say not too far from the median hype they are hyping on for being launched by UOA, because usually this is considered quite reputable developer comparing to all the others in the area. So this is one of the most reputable because some haven't launched, right? So this is considered one of the most reputable. Okay, so rental wise, we're comparing to R&F room rental. I think cash flow, I would say, is just probably a bit at the border, not too premium. Cash flow wise, you want to make a lot of positive, or probably you have to do room rental. And then something to highlight at Terra Residence, you can do Airbnb. So it's mainly for own stay. Okay, so next slide is the a property filter price. I would say 2, boosters 5, considering all the upscapes of the area. Supply and demand is 1, because as now, if you are concerning, when the maturities come in 2030, there will be more than 30,000 of supplies coming up, with all in the tier 1 or tier S area. Multiple rental options, because you cannot do Airbnb, you only go with a whole unit rental or even like room rental. That's why it explains only 3-star. Cash flow 3 is not too special. It's probably just break even. USP is just 2. Okay, return on capital gain and cash flow is just 3. So hence it summarized the capital gain rating for this 2.9 and the cash flow is just 3.2. Overall, I would say at Terra Residence, if you are buying for a reputable developers, predictable product, usually they can hand over you on time or even earlier before. I would say the price today is considered quite okay. It's just the only concern is the sizing, because when everyone is launching for small sizes, maximize out, but Atera have probably reversed slightly, being launched a little bit bigger in slide, but then probably it would target more people who actually prefer for a bigger livable spaces, which is kind of fixed to a UA concept because they are more on livable product. Okay, so that's all for the property we have launched tonight. But of course, we talk about so much what we actually discussed in the 5 property. You guys must be curious, okay, why we come up with 8 property filter, why we judge people. Of course, we have actually entered something different, different price point, different area, like what boss said that if you make money, we probably clients make more than you. So we have actually something at tier 1 area. The price, the capital gain, the cash flow is doing quite well. So we have Mary. So you guys can screenshot for those clients who have joined, they actually know this product. Okay. So capital gain for this is 3.94. Cash flow is 3.87. I won't really read round any number. We just want to show you the region. If let's say it's 4, it's going to be 4. It's 3.9, it's 3.9. Okay. Next slide we have is Diana. So this one is considered bigger sizes. Price-wise, we bought it around 380 per square feet. Okay. Boosters, upscale of this Iskandar Madini area, special economy zone. Okay, supply and demand. Of course, this area there's not much new coming. Okay. So cash flow, our clients doing quite well. Like you guys have seen, if let's say they go for whole unit rental per month, is about 1,000 to 2,000 positive per month. Those crazy Airbnb people who actually make this area highest, probably they get about 13K per month. Then during low peak time, like Puasa time, is about 3 to 4,000, still able to cover their monthly mortgages with the cash out there. The cash flow doing quite well for this. Okay, that's why capital rating, even though we bought at really low prices, it's still the cash flow is still better than the capital gain rating. So it's 3.7 for capital and 4.0 for cash flow. So the next one we have is EP. So this one, small sizes, last time when we launched, we bought it below 300,000, okay, which today it was transacted way beyond, even asking have actually is close to 400,000. So from the cash out they have taken and no capital gain they have taken is at least 30% they have made actually with the current transacted price point. So price wise is 4.0, booster is 4.0 because this is not really at the prime tier S. It's probably just a tier 1 or tier 2 lucky area. Okay, supply and demand 3.75, multiple rental options, mainly targeting for a whole unit because the size is considered smaller. Cash flow is 5, client at least make about close to 500 to 600 per month for doing this, just small sizes. Okay, and USP is 3, return on capital gain and cash flow is 5 because they have gotten cash out earlier phases and also a really good cash flow for this. For someone to start with a small sizes or small investment value, this is one they have actually gotten in previously. So this is why in terms of capital gain is 4.3 and the cash flow is 4.2, consider one of the highest that actually. And so to go before we end up for today. If you guys have any questions to ask us, you can just put on in Q&A. We'll try to answer as much as possible. If you put on a chat box, we're probably not able to see because we might miss a question. Okay, so maybe that's all for today. We can call upon all the panelists on board.
Hello. Okay, so are you guys all ready for the questions? Before I move to the questions, I'd like to invite everyone here. If you guys have any questions that you want us to answer, we will actually pick your questions in the Q&A box, not in the chat. So please put it there and our panelists will actually decide and click on it. And some of the questions actually we already replied it throughout the session as well. Okay, so let's begin with the first questions. It's coming from Muhammad Ilman. Good evening, Far. What your opinion on Sayong 2 Eco Botanic 3-bedroom at M350 per square foot, 1001 square foot for investment? Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
Can you post the question sekali kat situ?
Yes, I will.
Sayong 2 Eco Botanic. I'm not sure whether we are familiar ataupun tak with this development.
It's a Sayang 2.
Sayang 2. This is
Um,
a medium cost apartment ke condo?
it's a condo. It's a affordable series by EcoWorld, but it's not under state government. Yeah, this one of the hottest so-called lah. Last time Sayang 1 tu is one of the hottest because of the rental rate dekat sana for studio is quite tinggi. Room rental as well, one bedder as well, because it's located next to the EduCity Medini there. Is really next door, and also commercial too is one of the vibrant dekat kawasan Medini and Iskandar lah. And it's located really inside the commercial area. So Sayang One is one of the best. Actually, Econest one of the best one. Sayang One is second, which is the first affordable. Now they launching a Sayang Two. Sayang famous about 3 key and 2 key punya unit. Studio rental over there. Small sizes. Yeah, so people are talking about really a good investment on the cash flow lah, especially.
Yeah, I think at 350, I think it's a fair price point.
Mm.
Very similar to our price point. Then the question is the layout and obviously the facilities. So the other thing here is that Botanic punya site as of today, because there's no competition, so rental is good, right? But it took them, I think, a lot of years lah, more than 10 years kot, untuk jual the first high rise yang ada dekat Eco Botanic tu. Because there's very little demand. Next.
Okay, so the next one, long-term rental, 3 to 4 years down. How is the maintenance?
I think dia macam ni tau. So I think it's a great question, right? When you make your unit to be quite nice and you're asking for higher rental, let's say 10 to 20%, you are going to attract the best quality of tenant, right? So the probability of the tenant, number one, tak bayar after a few months, number one, is going to be very low. Number two, if they end up leaving the property, you know, because they're the best quality tenant, right? So they tend to leave the unit okay lah. So you have to understand, right? If you put lousy unit and then you get lousy tenant, guess what? The maintenance of this property becomes more expensive because you are attracting lower quality tenants, right? Who tend to don't give a shit about your property, damage your property, you know, run away tengah-tengah malam, right? You don't see this for high-end properties, to be honest. So again, is this a guarantee? I say it's not. There will always be an anomaly whereby 1%, 0.5% of the tenant yang buat taik, right? But I would argue that majority, if your unit is the nice unit and development, you attract the best possible tenants, right? And again, also depends who you rent it to. Let's say, for example, if your target market is to rent to Singaporeans, then I think Singaporeans from a tenant POV, they are pretty decent, right? There's a lot of countries where that is very favored when it comes to tenancy, like for example, like Japan, right? They tend to leave the unit after 5 years exactly the same way they receive the unit, right? But if your unit is not properly renovated to what they need, they're not gonna even look at your unit in the first place. Okay. So I guess the last example I can use is that, look, if you are a pretty girl, you're gonna have a lot of options to choose from. When you're not so pretty, you take whatever that comes your way lah. Sama juga macam handsome guy. Handsome guy, a lot of people want. Right? Then kau pilih lah, kau nak yang lawa ke, kau nak yang macam ni ke, kau nak macam tu ke, it's up to you, right? Because you got a choice, right? Now, you can reduce the price. Now, you can have the best looking unit and you can choose to not, let's say, for example, take the highest price point because you don't want the tenant profile macam tu, right? And you are willing, let's say, for example, market rate, right, for your unit, 4,000. A Japanese guy go and offer 3,500, right? Which is normal for normal unit. Now, you still have the option to go and accept, you see? Because at least the Japanese guy likes your unit because unit looks good. So you understand what I'm trying to say, right? So when your unit is of certain level, then you can decide what kind of price point you want to set. So if your unit looks good, but you're asking for mass market price point, guess what? You're going to have 10 people to choose from. Then you pick the best one. Okay. So the cheapest unit attract the lowest quality of tenant. The most expensive unit normally attracts the best quality of tenant. So we tend to go with that, right? So the other thing of what we are doing at FACAP, so we're doing something a bit more unique, right? So we are going heavily on medium-term rental, right? We're going heavily on medium-term rental, right? So what does medium-term means is rental of between 1 month to 9 months, right? So anything less than 1 month is Airbnb. Anything, let's say, for example, 12 months over is considered long-term rental, right? So we go for somewhere in between. Okay, now, what we're doing here is that the unit that is tenanted through us actually receive once a week complimentary cleaning. All right. This ensures the quality and the cleanliness of the unit is good. So in exchange, we actually charge 30 to 50% higher rental. Okay. So what we discovered from our co-living business is that the more regular the free cleaning becomes, the more better your unit becomes. You understand? Because you're not going to live 6 months not knowing what happened to your unit, right? So this one, every week, cleaner comes in, they see the unit, they come and report. So it's a different game, and I think we are the only ones doing this right now in the market. So therefore, you know, our units are looking quite all right. Like it's not to say we don't have. For example, like yesterday we have, right? One fella don't pay rental, right? Don't pay rental for 14 days already, right? So the system automatically locks them out, is it? Right? So you cannot access your unit, you cannot access your room. Double, right? So this person decided to go from his friend's room, lompat to the balcony and pecahkan the tingkap. Right? Just to enter his room, pack his bags, right? Take his stuff, and then leave. Right? Now, is that a very comfortable story for majority of the property owner? It's not. Betul tak? But, number one, we don't have a story of people tak bayar 3 bulan and still get to stay for free, and then you have to produce legal letter, police report, all of this, just to get them out. Look, if they don't pay within 7 days, we lock them out completely. Right? So they are forced to break the window, right? And we also collect deposit. We will also blacklist them on secrecy. So eventually they will pay. Right? And here's the best part. Owner have no clue this is happening. Right? All he knows, tenant tak bayar, we are on the verge of replacing the tenant with someone else. Right? By early of next month, he's going to have a new tenant. So he's completely unaware that this unit has got this drama. Okay? So yeah, burn deposit also can cover the tingkap punya cost, and we don't just cover the cost lah. Normally we charge them a little bit more. So we actually have the right to go and put something in their CTOS. So the next time they nak apply credit card ke and apa semua tu is there actually, that record. So they're gonna have no choice but to pay back. So not just about the burn deposit lah. So, but I think, like I said, this is the key thing, right? The key thing is that you renovate your unit properly, right? You got to renovate your unit properly, right? And once you renovate your unit properly, it's very easy to go and get, like, let's say, for example, right? We buy into a certain development and you have the 4 rental option. You can rent long term, you can rent medium term, you can rent short term, you can do co-living, right? So before you get the keys, you already know you've got these 4 rental options. Then let's say, for example, you decided to go for co-living because you think it's the safest, right? Cash flow wise is also the highest. So you renovate to that spec of co-living. It's very easy to go and get a co-living operator to go and take your unit untuk disewakan. No, because I just got a question on my DM, right? So is the property that is bought at far cap, you don't have to manage. So the answer here is that you still have to manage, but the degree of management is very, very low, right? William here owns property in KL, Selangor, Johor, Bahru, Penang. Rata-rata dia ada, right? And he's not Superman lah. He cannot be everywhere, right? Many of his units is tenanted long term, right? And majority to non-Malaysian client expat because the unit looks good. Yeah, Johor is tenanted to Korean William. Ke dah tukar?
Yang tu ada Japanese before, Korean. Sekarang actually back to Malaysian.
Now back to Malaysian already,
Hmm.
right? And again, when the unit looks good, then you're gonna have all these options, right? So you're gonna have Korean, you're gonna have Japanese looking. So William's unit is like this handsome looking guy that all the girls either Malaysia, Korean ataupun Japanese nak. Macam William lah. See, I jual William juga malam ni. But you understand lah, you understand, right? But if your unit looks bad, right? So you're gonna attract the worst quality tenant. The worst quality tenant will also treat you like shit lah. So I always say people, right? If you are handsome or beautiful, you get nature's advantage. You don't normally attract the worst person, right, in the world, unless you have terrible selection process. So for example macam Albee kan, Albee ada banyak minat, tapi kalau dia tiba-tiba dia nak je kan, tak ada kerja kan, ada motor je kan, you know, dan itu salah dia lah. So make sure your unit looks good lah, pokok dia. Summary dia. Because when your unit looks good, you can easily get people to go and manage your unit. They want your unit. Far capital client unit, agent berebut nak. Cause easy to rent, cantik. You know, we often get corporate tenants. They want 15 to 20 units and they want the unit to be certain standard. So far cap climate unit normally falls into that standard. Okay.
Oh, right. Okay. Next question. Rana, let me post it first in the chat. So, do you see buying tier 1 JB at 700 to 800 per square foot not the best move already since launch price at tier S is getting lower?
Yeah. I mean, it's very clear with what we are doing, right? How much are we buying tier 1? 550 per square foot max. Right? So, and that's the most expensive per square foot property we have bought in Johor in the last 5 years. All right? So again, that's the reason why you understand tier, right? So tier S supposed to be the most expensive, followed by tier 1, followed by tier 2, followed by tier 3. If tier S dengan tier 1, the difference is only RM100 per square foot, you must buy tier S. Because tier S supposed to be far more superior. Right? So now you understand kenapa tiering exists, right? So the reason why tier exists is simply because I see last time, right, 10 years ago, I tak faham. Why would people buy Kota Damansara leasehold for 1,000 per square foot? I tak faham. Sebab you can buy Mont Kiara freehold tier 1 at RM700 per square foot. Rental in Mont Kiara is very different compared to Kota Damansara. Right? New unit dekat Kota Damansara today kalau 2 bilik rental RM3,500. New unit dekat Mont Kiara today rental is RM5,000 to RM6,000. Why would you pay more for tier 2 when you can buy cheaper in tier 1? Does that make sense? So that's how tier works. So good, right? You clearly understand the concept of tiering, which is why you're asking this question. So for us, macam tu. If we see, for example, tier S going for about 900, then I think the fair price to enter tier 1 is about 600. Because the rental in tier S is going to be minimum 50% higher compared to tier 1. Because it's Singapore dollars. People who are committing to go towards Singapore.
Oh, right. Okay, the next one. Hi for Capital Team. By the time RTS starts ops, do you foresee massive jam around the town area?
It's not going to be better than today, right? That's for sure. And jam is good. Why you worry about jam? Bukit Bintang jam every day, every time. 2 pagi pun jam juga. Ya, depan pavilion tu. So, jam is not a bad thing. It's a signal of energy. It's a signal of interest. Right? You want to have jam. Jam is energy. Bukan jam sebab bodoh lah. Right? Sebab, you know, dia salah letak jalan lah. Itu jam yang bodoh. So, you know, when it comes to TS, RTS, it's not jam yang bodoh. It's generally because few 100,000 gonna commute every day using that infrastructure. If there's no jam in RTS, you sure die one buying it at 900 ringgit per square foot because there's just no demand. Right? So jam is good.
All right, the next one. Is 900 per square foot at Tier S is going to be connection price after the RTS market getting matured by time? If no, for how many years we're going to see the real market price after RTS complete? After considering the big supply over there.
Okay, this is such a phenomenal question. Okay, I probably have to also correct you. We're not saying that after the supply peak and you have correction, that RTS will be very at 900 ringgit per square foot. That's not what we are saying. Right? Now, privately for me, looking at the numbers, I think the average property price around RTS will most likely be anything between 1,003 to 1,005 per square foot over the next 5 years. Even as the supply increases. So that simply means you're going to make money. So most likely you will make money buying at today's price point. The primary consideration here is that the best opportunity you can buy today? Sebab if RTS average at 1,005 and assuming tier 1 is available at 30% discount versus RTS or even say 50, right? If it's 30% means tier 1 become 1,050 ringgit per square foot average. Okay. If it's 50% discount versus TS, it's going to be 750 ringgit per square foot average. Which one gives you more upside? You pay 1,001 today in RTS, go to 1,005, is only 30%. If I pay 550 today, my deal in tier 1, it goes to 750 average. I make more than 30%. And my risk is a lot lower than you. Because my entry price is much lower. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Correction does not mean it's going to drop to 900 ringgit per square foot. I don't think it's going to be below 1,002. Right? But is that the best opportunity you can buy today? Hell no. No way. Right? It's not safe enough. There's not enough margin of safety. Right? You could end up making money, but you could end up making 10 to 20%, while the rest of us make 50. That's what we're trying to say. Okay? So, this is not a shooting down RTS. We're not saying RTS cannot make money. We're saying RTS today, you're paying above median price point. You already saw the transacted price per square foot, right? For tier S, average today is 970, Zakri?
930.
930 per square foot. You pay 1,001, you pay 20% higher. Average tier 1 tadi berapa?
It's about 650 lah.
650.
Betul.
So can you imagine, you pay 1,001 in tier S when median is 930 and we pay 550 per square foot in tier 1 when the median is how much? 600 plus
650.
So it's completely different. I'm hoping you make money. I'm hoping you make a lot of money because why? If you make a lot of money, we make far more. That's all. Okay. William bought tier 1 at 450 ringgit per square foot. Freehold.
Yes. Yes, freehold.
Yeah. Cash flow positive, cash out 300,000. 200 or 300,000 William?
320 lah.
Yeah. Now, is his deal better than anything people have bought in RTS in the last 5 years? Fuck yes. It's not even comparable. You bought, made 200,000 cash out, positive cash flow from day one. And you bought almost 70% discount. That's it. So for RTS to make money, Johor has to do well. For us to make money, Johor don't even have to do anything better than it is today. That's the beauty. When you buy things at sufficient margin of safety. Right? So real market price, last but not least, the real market price at RTS is going to be special because it's got nothing to do with Johor. RTS is not tagged to tier 1, tier 2, nothing to do with Johor. RTS will be tagged at the discount versus Singapore. Okay? If RTS punya price sama dengan Singapore, why the hell people want to stay nearby RTS Johor? Baik duduk kat Singapore. Make sense? People only stay in RTS Johor because they cannot afford Singapore. And we think that discount is 50%. Right? So, we think RTS will make money, but is that the best opportunity you have today in Johor Bahru? No, no way. It's not even close.
It's gonna be even worse for those who bought tier 1 at RTS price. So we can see today they are launching at 900 plus PSL, crazy way. Whereby RTS is lower down their price. This tier 1 is the price is getting higher by time. So yeah.
Right? Look, the people, 95% of the people in the last 10, 13 years who bought Johor all lose money because they don't understand what's the right price. Right? So again, if you don't understand tier, you cannot understand what's the right price. Right? The difference here is that 10, 30 years ago, people are speculating. It's going to be Shenzhen, blah, 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 right? I think they speculated too early. Right? So today is the time to speculate, but if you want to speculate, you want to have sufficient margin of safety. That's all. We're not here to go on these people who buy RTS at 1,002 per square foot. We're not here to go on these at people who are buying tier 1 at 800 ringgit or 900 ringgit per square foot. Suka hati kau lah duit kau. Right? We don't care. But what we're saying here is that, hey, we got people paying below 600 for tier 1. There are people getting those kind of deals. Right? So, you should be smarter. Because those deals exist. That's all. That's our whole message. Right? And if you want to make money, then you have to make sure you buy at lowest price possible.
All right, so we have a couple questions regarding about our service and package. So I'm gonna share it here. Can you talk more about your membership promos and etc.? Thanks. And if I sign up to the deposit 399 offer, any other hidden charges that I need to prepare? I think you can explain the client membership first, because we got a lot of these questions.
Oh, okay. I think the whole concept here is that today we have a deposit system whereby you can pay 399, right? And you got no other payment that you need to pay up until you successfully bought your first property, right? So today the most premium membership at FACAP is 10,000, right? So you pay 399 today, you pay a deposit, you look at buying a property, and then you can pay the balance the moment that you have received cash out from the first property that you bought through FACAP. Okay, so that allows you to buy unlimited number of property from FACAP. It allows you to enjoy our ERP program. Anyone here wanting to buy property worried cannot rent out the property? Is there anyone here like that? Now, under the premium membership, you can actually park your unit to us and we pay you 6%. Now, again, we're not running a Ponzi scheme here. You've seen our rental yield. We don't do anything below 7%, guys. So that's why we can pay you 6. Right? We are getting 7, 8, 9. I can comfortably pay you 6. But again, this is for people who are either lazy, too scared, or time poor. Right? So you can completely outsource your unit to FACAP. And we pay you 6%. Right? So under the premium membership of 10,000 ringgit, which you can pay up front today if you want to, or you can just pay the 399 and pay the balance the moment that you get your cash out from your first property purchase in the next 9 months. So I cannot make it more affordable for you. So technically, you pay me a 399 deposit, then you buy property at least 20, 30, 50,000 cheaper. Like the Marie that we are buying is 50,000 cheaper compared to public. So you save 50,000. On top of that, you're going to get 30, 40,000 cash out. So you become a client today for free, right? You're not using your own money, right, to become a client. And you are guaranteed to buy the lowest property deal in the market, right? So I think very straightforward. Everything that you need to know, guys, about how to pick the right property, we teach you tonight. You go and study a property filter, you'll be able to go and identify the same property that what we are buying. But the difference is that even with a property filter, you cannot get my price. Understand? Why you cannot get my price? You buy one unit, I buy 50. No way you can get my price. Right? So you become a client because you want to make sure you buy the lowest price point. You get maximum cash out. And again, the deposit to become a client is only 399. Then you enter one-on-one, look at the type of property you could be buying after your one-on-one. And then after that, once you buy, you get your cash out from your purchase because you are buying at 20, 30, 40, 50% discount. You pay us the balance. But you want to pay us 10,000 today, so we take lah. No problem. Right? So if you are keen, right, to become a client with only 399 starting money, right, deposit promo, there's a link that the team has basically sent. Click on it, right? And we look forward to seeing you, right? Our current property deal is quite exciting. We just completed the one in Tier 1 Johor. We might have one more coming in Tier 1 next 2 to 3 months. That will be the mother of all deals in Tier 1 lah, I would argue lah. Probably one of the best deals that we're doing. We are negotiating lah, guys. So don't quote me on this. Belum settle nego. Tapi tak jauh. Okay. So 50-60% probability there, right? I'm looking to buy somewhere within 5 minutes to RTS. 5 minutes to RTS. Below RM550 per square foot. Tier 1, 5 minutes to RTS, below 550 per square foot. Freehold completed. Okay. This is going to be roughly about 60% cheaper compared to SPA price. So, you want to have access to deal macam ni, be a client tonight. Right? You want to buy the cheapest property in Penang, right, and below 450 per square foot, be a client tonight. Penang Island, 450 per square foot. Right? We bought the cheapest in Penang Island in the last 10 years. No one has bought cheaper than us. Even in Penang, we can get positive cash flow. So, you want to have access to deals like that. You have to have access to cash out that allows you to buy zero down payment in Malaysia, right? And top of that, you can even increase your own personal savings. And you want property that can give you predictable cash flow, you be a client. That's it. But again, how to identify good property, we already teach you for free. You can use a property filter. You only become a client, you want to have access to the deals that we are doing. And hopefully Q2, we're going to launch the cheapest property you can buy nearby LRT, MRT in Klang Valley at below 250,000 ringgit. That's happening in Q2. So that's our pipeline deal. So we got one more coming for Johor. Klang Valley will look very exciting. We just recently entered Langkawi at 70% cheaper per square foot compared to Tropicana. Not 17, 70. 70 sea view.
So yeah, if you're interested to become a client tonight, pay the deposit price lebih kurang harga baju raya je. So and then you can catch the deals upcoming Q2. So kita raya dulu, lepas tu baru kita pergi hunt the deals. Okay, the next one.
Oh, by the way, anyone who needs cash, we've got a upcoming launch nearby KLCC. That one will allow you to get 2 to 500,000 cash, right? Or 90% loan. Anything from 200,000 to $500,000 cash, but only Malaysian can buy, unfortunately. This one, only Malaysian can buy. And even on 70% loan, you can actually get almost 100,000 cash out. Completed, by the way. And again, this is like 5-10 minutes to Petronas Twin Towers. No joke. So you have access to this like this, be a client. Because no one is buying cheaper. Mm.
All right. The next one. Okay, so do you see the short-term rental market in JB is going to be the best play, considering there's a limited supply of branded hotels in JB?
We don't like short-term rental. Short-term rental is like a last resort, right? So it's like the BS that all the agents in Johor is using to get you to go and buy their property in Tier S. Kau cannot justify everything above median, right? Cash flow as Saturday sure koyak. So how do you do daily rental? Branded apa semua tu, number one. Number two here is that your Airbnb is not a branded residence. Right? You cannot charge RM300 satu malam. Like you are a 4-star international brand. Because you're nobody, you're a local brand. You're RM100 per night. Sometimes during promo, you give RM50. That's your market rate. So, again, this is probably the reason why agents don't like Far Capital, see? Right? They talk shit about us and they make stories and whatnot. Simply because we call out things like this. Right? If you look at Penang today and everything in RTS and everything being launched in Penang today, first you will discover they are all way above median. Number two, they all use the same story to go and sell the property, which is Airbnb short stay. Because they know I do long-term rental, show koyak on. Cannot get positive cash flow. Okay. So again, in order for short-term rental to do very well, two things must happen. Number one, your property must be extremely unique. First, the building itself has to be unique. Second, your own property has to be unique. Number two, you pray no one copies that building and your unit. Then okay. Okay. So we don't think so. We think medium-term, long-term rental is the way to go. We think co-living is the way to go. But definitely not short-term.
All right. Okay, so this is the last question for tonight. Hold on, let me paste it first. Hi, Farcap. I am a Singaporean looking to purchase condo in Medini. Can I ask more about Medini area projects where there is no price restriction for foreigners? Buying for both own stay and investment. Can you explain more about this private lease scheme and whether Medini has already been confirmed to be able to convert to freehold? Looking at Grand Medini and DM at Macrolink.
So, is the conversion happening already in Medini? The answer is yes. There's already developments, lands being converted from lease on lease to become freehold. Now, the consideration why it's not a guaranteed good thing here is that you have to understand what you are sacrificing to convert to freehold. Today, you can sell anything to anyone at any price because you are on a lease on lease. That's why it's a special economic zone. You convert to freehold, you might lose that advantage. I say might simply because it's not been confirmed yet. Okay? So I would be quite worried about converting my unit from lease on lease to freehold, because that would mean you are subject to the same 1 million minimum purchase price and whatnot. Now, we also think Medini will become 1 million eventually. It's not going to be too far. I honestly think of everything that we have today in Johor, Medini will probably be the most suitable township to become the Singapore retirement village. Near enough to second link, you don't need RTS because you're not going to Singapore to work every day. All right, so we think with the parks, availability of land bank, a lot of new concept can be developed, better standard of retail. And knowing what we know about the master plan of Medini, we think Medini Iskandar side, the Gebang Iskandar side, will most likely be the place for retiring Singaporeans. So it's going to be a little Singapore village there, right? RTS is for people who are working every day. Medini is Malaysian working in Singapore, commuting by car, and retirees from Singapore. Okay. We are familiar with Grand Medini, and Macrolink. Like I said, we don't pay anything but 550 per square foot in Medini. Right? So reason, we want to make sure that we buy the cheapest price point. That's it. So if we're gonna pay 550, 650, 700 ringgit per square foot, you're paying above median already for Medini. Right? So you take a risk. But property like Grand Medini, in my opinion, is a nice property. I personally like the property for own stay. Right? But for investment, I have to look at the price per square foot. So we're very sensitive. We don't buy anything above median, guys. No? That's why project in Johor, the last 2 years, only 3. All right? Because if you can buy everything above median, we can take hundreds. No problem. Become like every other agent. Everything sell Airbnb. Hey man, I've got a client doing Airbnb making 200,000 a year, income before tax. After installment, before tax. Right? I can use that story, to go and peddle this, recruit 1,000 people out of Singapore. Come here, sure, do that one. Sure can get 2,000, 200,000. No, we don't do that. That kind of pitch. Right? We are very conservative in many of our approach, which is why we have 8 property filters. And the moment you understand 8 property filter, even I cannot scam you. I cannot scam you into buying above median. You will immediately see it very quickly. Understand? Right? So we think those property are okay. I think it's slightly above median for own stay. So you can buy if you generally like the property, and for own stay, then it's fine. Buy something that you like, bro. Right? But for investment, we have a price point that we will never pay. And that price point, as far as Medini is today, 550. That's max. Right?
All right. So that's the last question for tonight. So if you guys still want to join our live session, we're going to be on Us FAR live, upcoming in the next 10 to 20 minutes in our social media. But for now, for DOG, it's the end of the session. You have any last word before we close the webinar tonight?
I got none. So first and foremost, thank you for joining us tonight, guys. I hope we didn't waste your time. I hope you had a lot of value. I hope you have access to a lot of data, and everything that we have presented, you can fact check. Please do, right? Never trust anyone of anything, right? Just like that. Always do your own fact check. We are not worried simply because we have done the part, right? And the goal for tonight, like I said, is to provide some form of safe way for people to go and look at the market, right? And I'm hoping that what we've shared tonight will give you ideas, will give you the parameters on how you want to navigate and buy property in Johor Bahru safely. Again, this part of Malaysia is very special because you're going to have a seamless connectivity between Malaysia and Singapore. Is the only place. So again, every single thing that we have mentioned tonight is very much based on a conservative POV, based on existing data, right? Because everything that we do at FACAP, we don't do forecast based on future profit, right? It's not our philosophy of forecasting future profit, thus selling you a property. We look based on what things are, what's the worst case scenario, and then if your worst case scenario was still okay, then the best case scenario has got no limit, right? As I mentioned just now, right? Just because you pay 1,200 in RTS, it does not mean you lose money, right? The question here is that, is there better properties you can deploy your capital or buy today in Johor Bahru? And the answer is that yes, plenty. Tier 1, Tier 2 has got a lot of opportunities. Better than RTS in our opinion. And when you look at our track record of 20, 30, 40, 50% capital gain, these are all happening in Tier 1, Tier 2. RTS, no capital gain, I guess, in the last 10 years. Tri Tower, RNF, I don't think these guys are selling at above their SPA price point. Fact, right? So they are waiting for RTS. It might happen next year, might happen 2 years from now, but today, kita beli yang buat duit lah. So that's the whole point, right? Thank you so much for your attention. And if you are looking, for a safe way to buy property, like I said, confirm you're going to buy the lowest. You buy property that meets 8 property filter. And the best thing about becoming a client, you tell us what's your goal, and then we settle the rest, right? Whereby you just say, Faizul team, I want to buy cash flow property. I don't care about capital gain, right? This is my loan limit, right? And this is my criteria, and boom, we go and find property for you. And okay, this property A, property B, you can buy, right? And for 399 is a no-brainer, right? For 399 deposit is a no-brainer. Balance you pay upon successfully receiving your first cash out from your first property purchase, right? So with that, have a great week ahead, everyone. And for our Muslim brothers and sisters, I guess I'm gonna wish you a Selamat Hari Raya in advance. Right? Maaf Zahir dan Zahir je lah kot, batin tak ada. I don't believe I dah batin tu siapa pun, right? Dekat sini kan. So you know, bro is very direct, right? Bro is very direct. If the payment gateway doesn't work, like I said, DM us, try again and all that lah. So that for new clients joining tonight, I guess I'm gonna see you soon because we have a lot of nice things to buy. Like I said, Klang Valley below 250,000, but the one only local lah. Sorry, yeah. A foreigner can buy things at 300,000, but you have to buy dual key and triple key unit. But you can still buy 300,000 property studio lah, basically. So again, these are deals that we have as of today. We're gonna have things, inshallah, to buy dekat tier 1 Johor Bahru. Hopefully, we can buy 60% discount je, right? So below 500 ringgit per square foot. Very much looking forward lah. That probably is going to be the deal of the year for 2024, 2025, 2026, all the way to 2030 lah kot, for Johor Bahru, tier 1, right? If that happens. So if you want to participate, be a client. It's only 399 deposit. Balance you pay us after you purchase your property successfully. That, again, Assalamualaikum. Good evening semua. Have a great week ahead and Selamat Raya in advance. And again,
Alright,
thank you for the
Selamat Raya.
panelists. Bye guys.
Bye bye everyone. Assalamualaikum and good night.